Welcome back. Welcome back. Dr. Jake Long is here, and he's the new superintendent of Mountain Home Schools, and I want to welcome him.
Yes, thank you for being here, or letting me be here.
Letting you be here. Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate you coming around. We always like to invite local people that are in the public eye, so to speak, and got an important job out there, and we want to talk a little bit about your job and maybe some insight on what you have plans.
You bet. And I have been in the position since July 1 of 2015, and so can't say enough about the Mountain Home community and the folks within the school system and the people of our community, and how welcoming that they have been in my first 7 months on the job. And I can tell you this, that we have some fantastic things going on within our school system, and a long, rich history of students that are achieving at a very high level. Just over Christmas break, I met with one of our most recent graduates. He's currently at MIT, and so just incredible. And that's just one example. No telling how many different doctors, lawyers. Also, we have a good workforce going into our local industry, and so the school system has a rich history of turning out great products, which are graduates, into our community. And so I'm very fortunate. I count my blessings every day to be a part of such a good school system and such a great community.
Well, how important, you mentioned you turning out a great product.
Yes.
Now, being in a college town, how advantageous is that to be associated with a college?
It's you can't put a price to it, because we have so many opportunities for our kids to gain concurrent credit while they're in high school. We have over 80 students this year, or in the fall, that we're taking a high school enrollment class, but also we're gaining college credit at the same time. And so whenever you have that kind of opportunity to enter into, you graduate with a high school diploma, but also with 15, 16, 20 hours of college credit, then that just puts those graduates on a path. And not just that, we have some great partnerships with ASU Mountain Home and their technical center that Dr. Myers has got started. And so we've got students going out there learning skills for automotive, for welding, for mechatronics, and very fortunate to have an industry such as Baxter here in the community that's willing to help out both at the high school level and at the secondary level in training a workforce, so that we have workers to go to work in those positions. So,
well, being on the job for 7 months, are you finding that it's a maintaining type of function, or do you have ideas of your own that you want to implement? And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the school board of what you can and can't do, but can you give us a little insight of what you would like to do in the next years?
Absolutely. My first basically 3 months or 100 days, it was all about listening, learning, and then leading. And so just understanding our school system, finding out as much information as possible. From that point, we actually sat down with a work session with the Board of Education and said, okay, guys, we have a great system. Where do we want to go from here? And I asked the question. I asked the board. I said, what's our goals? And actually, is big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, if anybody's heard that. and so I said, think large. What do you want Mountain Home Public Schools to be? And after some comments and some discussion, it came down to we want to be the national standard for public education. And so when you think about it, that's certainly audacious. If you think of being, when somebody says, hey, I want to see public education done right, and they say, okay, Mountain Home Public Schools. And so, I can get on board with that. I think our community should be proud of the loftiness and the ambition of that goal, because it gives us something to work for. And so my next question was, how do we get there? And we came up with four basic priorities. One of them being the first foremost, an academic focus that is personalized, that is collaborative. That academic focus we've continued to develop through a variety of committees, strategic councils, community, both internal and external. I've hosted a couple different coffee talks to allow community to come in and provide input on these variety of items. But the academic focus, we've narrowed it down to meeting our student needs. And so basically what that means is that we have to have a system in place that meets our students' basic needs before we're even interested in teaching a curriculum or teaching academics. Because if that student is hungry, if they haven't had a place to go that night before, they're not going to be concerned with what the teacher is presenting. And so meeting those basic needs is certainly number one, first and foremost. Engaging academic standards, having standards that allow our students to become more engaged into the educational process. We need an engaging curriculum. We need a curriculum that is up to date, that allows our students that they see the relevance between the items in which we're talking about. And then we have to continue to train our teachers and develop our teachers to a high level. So those were all the categories underneath the academic focus. The other three pieces is technology, culture, and then financial stability to become, the national standard for public education.
Yeah. I would think that the technological side of it is once you get once a new technology comes along, you've got to really train those teachers to pass that along, and a lot of times the students are way ahead of the teachers.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. Whenever we start talking about technology, a lot of people want to say, okay, give every kid an iPad or give every kid a laptop and this and that. Well, that is a great thing to do to give a kid, but if we're not taking the time to train the teachers of how to utilize that resource. And so first and foremost on the technology initiative is instructional technology professional development. How are we teaching our teachers how to utilize the technology in the classroom, how to engage the kids, because a student can be disengaged with a technology device the same as they could be engaged with it, with a workbook or a textbook or whatever. So it's about finding ways and training our teachers on ways and methods to enhance the education through the use of technology.
And I've always been, and I'm sure a lot of people are too, they learn if they are engaged, if it's a fun activity, if it's something they understand. If it's not, then it's just, you end up with bad grades and whatever. So I mean, I'm sure that's part of your challenge.
Absolutely it is. And a quick story, as one of our teachers is using Google Docs and Google Classroom. We're talking about a 5th grade. And so our student, she set up an assignment on Google Classroom and got all our students involved on a Friday. And so over the weekend, she came back on a Monday and she was telling a story to one of our technology people. She said, hey, over the weekend I had 581 comments from my class on this assignment. So there was a number of students that were engaged in an academic assignment over the weekend when they didn't have to be.
Right.
And so that's just what technology can do for us. It can take it beyond just those classroom walls and allows the students to be engaged in it at home. And some of those comments were like, hey, this is the weekend. What are you supposed to be what are you doing on this? And they said, well, if we get this done. And so we're talking about 5th graders.
Wow.
So
that's very interesting.
That's just one example of how we can use the technology to further educate our kids. And they're going to have it, they don't know life any different. They don't know life without the internet. They don't know life without Facebook. They just don't know it.
Right.
So are there any challenges that you're seeing that you're going to have to work hard to resolve?
Absolutely. In pretty much all the areas, we have a great school system, but there's always things that I think we can be better at. Within the technology realm, we have to make sure that our infrastructure is solid and up to date, and so that's one of our first and foremost. In fact, that's priority number 3 underneath our technology, is we have to make sure that our wireless system can hold the capacity for all those student devices. And so I've got 2 devices sitting here on my lap right now, and so what we have to plan each classroom with is for that student to be able to connect. Most of them's going to have a cell phone.
Right.
Most of them's some of them could have an iPad and then also a laptop. So what we're figuring on is having the capacity within our infrastructure for a student to have 3 different devices connected at one single time. And so to do that, we have to go in and we have to upgrade the infrastructure. Because if it doesn't matter if every kid has an iPad or every kid has a Chromebook or whatever, a laptop, if we can't allow them to be connected to the internet, then the device is worthless. So working through
key.
those things, certainly challenges. Some things are out of our control as far as getting greater bandwidth from the state, and so we're working through those things. But certainly I'm very pleased with the progress we've had at this point. It's easy to make things from average to good, but then you take a great, or what I would consider a great school system, and take it to the next level. It takes all hands on deck, and so
good. Well, we want to thank you for being here.
I appreciate
this is something that we'll probably have an open invitation for you to come back at some time. Maybe when you're 6 months in or a year into your job. I'd like to have you come back and give us another report on how it's going and see if you're meeting your goals.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to being able to come back and visit with you.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Jason Rice and David Murphy, and they're coaches with the Arkansas Tornadoes semi-pro football team. We'll be talking about what they're up to, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. Stay with us.